guys, this is Spark Plus Ultra here, and this is part 2 on what if Deku had Red Hood abilities under the Red Hood. And I hope you like this video and hope you subscribe. Then, when Aizawa was looking around trying to find Izuku in every place, in night and in day, it was pretty hard for him to figure out where he is. Then, the news reporting came in. Attention! This is morning news. It seems like there's a group called themselves the militia, and they seem to somewhat look at Red Hood as a leader in a way, following his footsteps on each and every moment that he makes. If ever there was a crime committed, then the militia group will follow suit, taking on any situation. With highly tactical resources, makes the US Army impressed. And Aizawa listens to that radio news. This Red Hood is such a pain to find. There's a group called the militia. Follow suit on what Red Hood's doing on his vigilantism. And then when Zao was trying to look around, trying to find the Red Hood, Suki gets up and finally takes a break from his Red Hood vigilantism. And Suki says, man, I haven't done this break for a while. Then Izuku gets a radio and turns it on, and Izuku hears the same news reporter woman that was reporting the militia, and Izuku was looking at the radio and hearing what she's saying. That's interesting. Well, that's... Izuku thinks on that. Never heard of this group before, but it is really recent. I guess I'll meet with them sooner or later. Sounds like they're very tactical, just like me. Izuku then sighs and opens the door and leaves of his house. Alright, time to get some rent money. When Izuku was going out to get rid of invasive species and not doing vigilantism, he found one of the trees that was on the peach tree, and Izuku then quickly realized, oh, you gotta be kidding me, this freaking invasive species? I hate this one. Izuku then looks at the effects of this invasive species. For those that don't know, this invasive species is very, very bad for the ecosystem and for, tourist attraction. You might not think it, but this is very, very bad. And Izuku then checks. Yeah, those are the marks of a freaking metallic greenwood boring beetle. And for those that don't know, this species is very dangerous because they affect the trees. Like, if they suck the tree and make them dead, and they spread like a wildfire, way worse than a actual wildfire. Izuku then calls the National Safeguard to help deal with the invasive species, and they immediately get to there and thanked him and gave him a reward for it. Because you might not think this, but Japan does actually give you a reward. And Izuku's doing this to help the environment, but also help with rent. So it's basically a win-win situation. And this one gets a huge money out of it because of how infamous this invasive species is. And Izuku says, thanks. Izuku then goes into the woods or goes to the sea streets to check on his cages that were made to deal with raccoons. Those are also invasive species affecting tanuki population. And Suku was looking around. None of the cages in the forest. Then he goes to see and check the cities. He found one in the alleyway. Gotcha! And gets another with a mother and her babies. Nice try. Sorry you guys, but you are too invasive to deal with. And he rightfully takes them to the National Nature Society to deal with these creatures. And Zuku smirks and says, no problem. Gets paid from it and says, I'll keep the cages out there just to make sure that these guys won't do anything stupid. And the workers smile that Zuku is helping out with these invasive species and dealing with them properly. Because, well, he's a crime fighter. That doesn't make him 100% a nature problem situation type guy. He needs to have help in these situations sometimes. And Zuku then goes to the store to get some proper meals to make sure that he can get somewhat properly from it. And thanks to the large amount of money from finding that very dangerous invasive bug species, he can get some meals that he can get now. And then he hears some people muttering and talking about the militia and Red Hood, about how they're, quote, being teamed up. And Zuku was very worried about that. He normally doesn't work in pairs sometimes. And he sighs, says, I guess I gotta deal with him next night. Then he goes back to his house and he walks down and looks around. No criminals this time. Takes the shortcut of a rundown alley streets, and then he hears a little gurgle in the sewage drainage. Suku then sighs and says, guess I need someone to deal with these things. And then Sludge Villain comes out. Hey there, kid! Let me have your... Then Zuko whips out a modified pistol that was custom made for ice ammunition element. And Zuko says, yeah. I heard this so many times with villains like you. And he fires. Zuko froze. Well, the sludge villain, looking at him with a straight, cold look. I'm not gonna kill you this time. It would be way too weird in this situation. Zuko walks away and looks at the sludge villain, who is frozen in ice from his modified gun bullet. And when he left the scene, All Might comes down and sees the sludge villain frozen. What the? Wasn't expecting this to happen. I was looking for you. You're frozen. There's nobody around. Then All Might sees a bullet. Bullet? A cartridge that was on the ground that was used some time earlier. And All Might was thinking, alright. All Might then hits the sludge villain, knocking him out and breaking him out of the ice while doing that, and taking him to the police. And All Might says, alright, I got the sludge villain. And Namasa then says, good work, All Might. And then when the sludge villain was taken to prison by the other cops, and Namasa looks at All Might. So, I see you're looking good, but you seem you had an easy time dealing with him. And All Might says, yeah, too easy. And Namasa heard that quote. What do you mean by that, Toshi? And then All Might shows him a cartridges of a bullet that was empty. Namasa then looks at it. What's so special? And All Might says, that cartridges recently fired, but it was something special about it. And then Namasa says, what do you mean? And then All Might says, I think it had some elemental property. Like, the sludge villain was frozen from what I saw. I wasn't expecting. And then Namasa elemental bullet. Then he snaps his finger. Of course. And then All Might says, What? Namasa. And then Namasa says, it's Red Hood. I think Sludge Villain came across him, and I didn't expect him to be in the middle of the day, taking him down that quickly. And All Might says, I have heard of Red Hood, of how quick and passionate and brutal you can get when dealing with criminals, specifically ones that are irredeemable. And then All Might look at Namasa and says, and what should I do? Should we have a talk with him? And then Namasa says, yeah, we need to find where he's living. Find any info. I think we can ask Sludge Villain about that. He'll probably spill the info about Red Hood. And then All Might says, yeah, agree. Judging from how he was facing off him, probably wasn't in the mood to punish him. But, yeah, I'll go talk to him if I find him. And Namasa says, alright, we'll let you know, Toshi. And then All Might walks out of the PD in his skinny and waves him goodbye. And Namasa goes to see the Sludge Villain and have some questions for him. Then, in the middle of the night, Zuku looks around. As Zuku gets his gear on and becomes the Red Hood, he looks for the gang that calls themselves the militia. When he tries to go look for those gang members, Zuku then hears a call for help. Keep him away from me, you freak! And Zuku hears a girl's voice. And the girl was trying to get away from this disgusting pervert. Why do you even have a pig mask? She swings a kick. The man tooks. No! Man, I love a girl. It's feisty. In a creepy sort of way. And when Zuku heard that voice, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Then Zuku stops his investigation to find the militia and goes to save her. He sees a orange-haired girl with green eyes, using her quirk to keep that pervert away. And the girl says, why don't you take the hit, jerk? Going for a chop to his neck. But then the man says, your quirk, it really does suit my creations. Then the girl says, what? Then he dodges her attack and gets a needle and says, I'll have an anesthetic, and puts it on her arm. She then goes, kicks him in the face. Ow! Why you freaking... Then she felt a bit of daze. Now, that's not nice for a little lady. And the girl was feeling her body not working. What the hell do you do? Then the man with the pig mask says, now I need to take you in for my army. Then he goes to take her. A gunfire comes out of the air and hitting the ground. Don't even try it, pig bastard. What? You got me. Damn you, Red Hood. He looks up and sees Izuku as Red Hood. And then Izuku looks, bringing his gun. I give you 10 seconds to run away and leave her be. Or you want to be the dead man who's already dead. Then the pig mask wearer said, you really are that annoying, aren't you, Red Hood? And Izuku says, well, I ain't a guy that's wearing a pig mask like a pervert, but you should know by now you got several warnings to this action. And now you're striking all Professor Pig. And the girl was hearing this, and then she tries to move her body, and Izuku looks fucking pervert. And then Professor Pig says, well, I'll be needing her. I shouldn't have you get in my way, especially with your hands filled tightly, Red. Then some minions come behind Izuku, and Izuku then grabs a Uzi and fires a elemental fire shot, hitting them in the head. They're already in deep trauma. I hate doing this, but you are so dead. He jumps down, and Professor Pig grabs the orange-haired girl with green eyes, trying to take her to her laboratory. But Izuku uses his grappling hook and gets her on her clothes and pulls her back out of his hands and says, gotcha! Grabbing her. Are you okay? And the girl trying to make a movement, saying, yeah. Damn, that aesthetic he used. Izuku grabs his pistol, ready to fire, but he got away. Mother, that frickin' pig pervert is so dead when I get my hands on him. And Izuku looks at the girl and says, you're okay, it was just an anesthetic. Luckily enough, I came here. And the girl says, thanks. When Izuku was going to carry her, another of one of his creations comes down on the building and goes to attack Izuku. Izuku sees it and pushes her away. His helmet gets knocked off, exposing his head, his face. And Izuku then uses his taser size of his pistol and shocks the creation that Professor Pig had made. Fucking pig. Then the girl sees his exposed face, and then Izuku says, why don't you keep that one a secret? Putting a finger on his lips, showing a silent sign, and Kendo nodding. The girl nodding to him. And then Izuku says, so, who are you? It's got Kendo. And she tries to talk normally, but the anesthetic is really messing with her. And Izuku says, well, Kendo, I think we need to take you to your house. It's dangerous here. Izuku then gets his mask and says, alright, let's go. He takes her to her house. She shows him the way where it was. But when he almost makes it to her house,
a certain skinny guy says, "My, I see you're helping the civilians, huh, Red Hood?" And then Suki looks. "Who are you?" He looks at a lanky, blonde-haired guy, and Suki says, "Do I even know you?" And then the lanky guy says, "I think you need to take her to her house first, Red Hood." Then Suki nods about that one and takes her in and puts her on the door steps of her house and rings the back door bell and goes away into the night. Then Suki says, "So, are you a thug as well?" And the lanky man says, "No, I'm no thug, that's for sure." Then Suki looks. "What do you want?" "You know All Might," the lanky guy says. "Almost everybody knows him." "Of course I know him." And then the lanky guy says, "My name is Toshinori Yaki." And Suki says, "Okay. Wait, what are you?" Then he turns into All Might. And Zuki was surprised. "Whoa, you're really him." "Well, that's surprising." Suki was surprised, seeing All Might in front of him. The skinny guy turned into a buff version of All Might. "What do you want?" And All Might says, "I want to talk with you, Red Hood. Can we do it privately?" And Zuki says, "Are you going to take me to the police? Because I ain't doing that, you know." But All Might then looks at him. "No, I seen what you did when you were dealing with the sludge villain." And Zuki says, "You saw me?" And All Might says, "No, not entirely, but I knew you had to use a ice bullet." And Zuki says, "Damn." Zuki then realized, "I forgot the cartridges, didn't I? That's screwed me over." And All Might says, "Can we talk? No more mask and identities. Just me and you." And All Might looks at him straight. And Zuki then sighs and says, "I highly doubt you want to see me. I have my own conditions." All Might says, "I already saw your identity in that thing of Professor Pig made hit your helmet." And Zuko then sighs. Fine, takes off and says, "My name is Suki Midoriya, and I'm the Red Hood." Then All Might says, "Wasn't expecting someone so young being a Red Hood." But Zuki then rolls his eyes, saying, "It doesn't matter. Wouldn't affect me much. That shows I'm good at hiding my identity." Then All Might then says, "Fair point." And Zuki says, "What do you want?" I'm guessing you don't want to have a little chit-chat. Then All Might says, "Well, it is a chit-chat, but I want you to be my successor." And Zuki surprised to hear that. What? And that's where I'm ending this video. I hope you liked this video and hope you subscribe. See you next time.